has been 10 years, but now Wolf Hall is finally back to Masterpiece PBS. Here to talk about the final chapter in this saga is the exec producer, and he's the founder of Playground, Colin Callender. And the star, the great Damian Lewis. Okay, first off, we're going to show a clip.
So, you would recommend, if I hear you have exceeded your office, or that you have slacked my instructions, or reversed them, that I should ignore the rumor?
I would recommend you talk to me before you believe anything.
It is a long time now since I first saw you, Tom.
It is. More than 10 years, sire.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I remember our first interview. Suffolk did not know what to make of you. I knew, though. I saw your sharp little eyes. You told me not to go to war. Never fight, you said. You can't afford it. Skulk indoors like a sick child. It will be good for the treasury. And I thought to myself, by St. Loy, this man has some stomach. He has some gall.
I trust I did not offend.
You did. I overlooked it, as a ruler sometimes must. I am greatly altered these 10 years. You, not so much. You no longer surprise me, like once you did. I do not think you will surprise me again, considering all that you have said and done. Some of it miraculous, I will not deny, Tom. You have worked beyond the capacities of 10 ordinary men. But still I miss the Cardinal of York. Still I miss Thomas Wolsey.
Damian, I'd like to start with you. What was it like to return to playing the king, and did you miss those costumes?
The costumes are heavy. The difference in my costume this time from last time is that Henry is older. He's sort of disintegrating physically. He's got these terrible ulcerated sores on his legs. He's no longer able to joust or hunt. So he's becoming sort of the size of Elvis in front of our very eyes. And so I used to wear this enormous sort of padded suit underneath all the ermine and all the cloth that I was wearing on top of that. So it was very different this time. But I love playing Henry in all his complexity. And so, yes, I was hurrying back to set. I say hurrying back to set. I walked slowly back to set over a 9-year period, but we all got there in the end.
You said physically what's different about him. Mentally, what is different about the king this time?
Henry he's an illusionist. He's a plate spinner. You know, the mythology that surrounds Tudor England is really generated almost entirely by this one man who has created this illusion of majesty, of magnificence. But we were by far the poorest cousin in Europe at the time. Francis I of France, Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman leader, they were all much more powerful. Henry's brilliance was as a plate spinner, being able to convince everybody that England was a going concern was a place to be reckoned with. But that took a heavy burden on him. And He had an increasing paranoia about his place on the throne, about the families that were maneuvering to take him off the throne. Two families legitimately had better claims to the throne than he ever did. That always worried him. He was worried about his sexual performance. It was very important to him that he had a son. He did finally get one, but then who died young, tragically. But he was worried about his virility and his ability to produce heirs. And he was a narcissistic, needy, complex, brilliant, romantic, genocidal Renaissance prince. He was all those things: an artist, a designer, an architect, a poet, a composer, who I think really deep down wanted to experience romantic love like an ordinary man, which of course was always going to be impossible for him.
Colin, when you go back to the original Wolf Hall and you see the lineup of talent in that, it's a total murderer's row. In fact, Antonia joked that it's a British mafia. You all come together for these great productions. How did that come about?
Well, you know, I've always said that you can distinguish really wonderful, great actors if they can express two conflicting emotions at the same time. What you just saw in that clip was a brilliant actor reflecting multiple emotions at the same time and having the power in his performance to play the silences. It's a very rare thing in performances on screen these days, and Damien's performance is a masterclass at that. Mark Rylance also, but Damien also. And to bring Damien back was quite a challenge. We had to, over the years, have a sort of play a four-dimensional chess game to get all the actors to be available at the same time. Because at the heart of this series, it's the story of two very powerful men who need each other to succeed, but who don't fully trust each other. It's a story of loyalty and betrayal, and Damien's performance in the middle of that is the anchor around which the story unfolds.
Damien, Mark Rylance, of course, is not here, so now you can tell us everything. Give us a little tidbit. What's he like to work with? Is he a straight-up prima donna? What did you get from him?
You get absolutely nothing from that guy. It's just a headache from day to day. He's Mark. He's Sir Mark Rylance for a reason. He's pretty good, and I always think that the most enjoyable scenes to be in with another actor. I always think of a sort of game of tennis. You know, if you hit a forehand with a bit of topspin, and the guy or lady opposite you gives you a little slice back, or a drop shot, or doubles the topspin, then you know you're going to have fun. You know, it's someone who hasn't programmed or choreographed their performance, but is totally in the moment and responsive to anything that you do, so that things change minutely, incrementally with every take. And that's what it's like working with Mark. He is absolutely present. He's an acting animal. And of course, the dynamic in this particular relationship is that everybody is treading on eggshells waiting for Henry's next proclamation, who frankly has turned into a bit of a maniac. So what's he going to do next? And Cromwell, who is the most powerful man in the kingdom apart from the king, is trying to second guess his every move. And you just, in that very scene we've just seen, you see a brilliant example of Mark's Cromwell, watching, listening, sniffing, waiting, alert, and wondering how he's going to have to respond. It was endless fun working with him.
Multiple century spoiler alert. We do know what happens with Mr. Cromwell. Can you tease, we're obviously not to the end of the run on Masterpiece right now. Do we get to that point at the end?
Are you asking me to give you that tease?
Yes, Damian Lewis, please answer.
I remember. Okay. Yeah, things happen. Things happen. What am I going to tell? Henry's favorite pastime when he's not writing poetry is he just really gets a kick out of chopping people's heads off. So, you know, watch and find out.
That was good enough. Colin, could you explain a little bit why it took so long for this to come?
Yes. The series is based on Hilary Mantel's third book, which she didn't complete till about 2015, which was some time after we had actually aired the first season. And then, of course, it had to be written. And then we had COVID kick in, which caused all sorts of havoc. And then we had to find a time when all the actors were available. And then because the whole series was shot entirely on location, 85 days entirely on location, in Tudor locations, houses and castles all over the country, we had to shoot in early spring or late winter to avoid the tourist season, because all those locations were tourist attractions, and we wouldn't be able to shoot the series at the height of the tourist season. So trying to combine all those elements resulted in us finally getting into production 10 years later.
How was it, some of those locations, Damien? Was it quite romantic?
Yeah, I mean, they're beautiful. They're beautiful if you've not had an opportunity to. One house, Montacute House, which is technically Elizabethan, which means it was about 60 years late for our period, but who's counting? Actually, when you look at it from the air, was built, constructed in the shape of an E to celebrate Elizabeth I. And it's this beautiful house. In fact, owned, go figure, by a successful lawyer of the time. So not by some incredible aristocrat, but a wealthy guy who was able to build this house. I will say it was cold. They don't have a lot of central heating in these places. And I was the only guy that was warm and happy on set because I was wearing this enormous fat suit for the entire shoot. So I was very happy to be at my rotundest for this particular shoot.
A last question for the both of you, and I'm asking you first, Damien. What do you hope the takeaway is? What do you hope viewers take away from seeing this final chapter?
Well, if you're just a lover of history, this has got everything. I am just a lover of history, so I'll sit down and watch these things. It is a visual feast. I will say that because, as Colin just said, it is shot on locations, real Tudor Elizabethan locations, and the costumes are sumptuous. And there are parallels to be drawn today. One of your colleagues at the beginning made a quip about that. Despotism doesn't work. Henry slowly tried to dismantle the checks and balances in the Houses of Parliament so that he could effectively, on a whim, decree a law, take it to the Houses of Parliament and say, guys, pass this. Don't know if that reminds you of anybody in particular. It's not a good idea. So there are parallels to be drawn. Otherwise, I would say it is a beautiful cat and mouse political thriller with codpieces. Who doesn't love that?
I think we're going to end it there. Thank you so much.